The apartment had potential. With a few fixes, some furniture, it would look great. Plus, there was an attic. Alex loved attics. Every house should have an attic. There was something magical about the dusty air and the secrets hidden in the eaves. This one, though, was different. As Alex started unpacking details about the apartment, nagged at them. The windows didn't open, but the curtains, though, they moved on their own sometimes. At night, scratching sounds came from above, dragging metal moans. Alex shrugged it off. Old buildings, right. Then the dreams began. Every night, Alex dreamed of rain. Not a gentle shower, but a deluge. Water roared, wind screamed, and something heavy always tried to pull Alex under. Then they woke up gasping for breath, drenched in cold sweat. Days passed. Alex grew restless. The job search wasn't going well. The phone never rang. The apartment grew colder. Alex couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. Then, one day, a package arrived. A thick, creamy envelope. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Ink hadn't dried yet. Alex's heart pounded as they read. Don't trust the whispers. Another appeared. They're coming for you. Alex tried to ignore them, but the messages kept coming, scrunched into tight balls and slipped under the door. There's no escape. Panic tightened Alex's throat. Who was behind it? Was it the landlord? His pale, sharp eyes, the way he always smelled faintly of mildew. Or maybe it was Mrs. Hemlock from next door. She never spoke, but her smile was a bit too wide, her eyes a bit too bright. Then the attic door opened. That's where it started. Curiosity clawed at Alex, demanding answers. Had to know who was behind it. Alex climbed the creaking stairs, pushed open the heavy door, and gasped. Books lined the walls, thousands of them, bound in leather. Their spines cracked and yellowed. Alex ran a finger across a title, The Book of Doors. Each tale trapped within was a cage, a prison, or a doorway to somewhere evil. The attic was a library of nightmares. Alex fled, slamming the door behind them. They had to get out, find somewhere else to live. But as Alex turned to leave, a draft slammed the door open. Books rained down, blocking the exit. Alex cried out, scrambling back. The musty smell grew stronger, coiling round their legs like grasping claws. Then a voice slithered through the chaos, curiouser and curiouser. The books swirled, forming a vortex of paper and ink. Alex stumbled back, trapped by their own curiosity. Let me show you a story. The vortex pulled, promising answers. Alex hesitated, then stepped inside. The pages closed behind them, sealing their fate. The attic vanished, replaced by cobblestones beneath their feet and gaslights flickering overhead. A narrow alley yawned before them, reeking of stale waste and something else, something sickly sweet. Alex shuddered, turning to go back, only to find the bookshop gaping more in front of them now. Panic clenched at their chest. How could they have been so stupid? But the voice purred, "Lost, Alex. You're just living the story now. It's time to play." Before Alex could protest, the voice struck. sending searing pain exploding through their leg. Alex crumpled, staring in disbelief as the story they'd opened devoured them whole. This is Nightbooks. Every story has a monster. Some are hiding in plain sight, others buried beneath the surface. Some feed on fear, others on memories. And in some stories, the monsters aren't real. They're only in your head. Welcome to Nightbooks. The first night was quiet to quiet. In a city that never slept, the silence pressed against the windows like a heavy blanket. No traffic, no footsteps in the hall, not even the hum of pipes in the walls, just silence. But when Alex closed their eyes, the quiet broke. A faint scratching sound came from the other side of the wall. Slow, steady, almost rhythmic, as if someone were writing. Alex sat up, heart pounding. The sound stopped. In the morning, the hallway looked different. It seemed longer, like another stretch of rooms had appeared overnight. But when Alex counted the doors, the numbers didn't make sense. 7, 9, 10, number 8. And yet, Alex's key opened the missing apartment. The apartment that shouldn't exist. Alex had moved to the city to escape a life that had become too familiar. They wanted a fresh start, a blank page, a place where no one knew their name. So they took a room in a building on the edge of town, brick and mortar and secrets. The place had character, the landlord said, a character that ran deeper than the peeling paint and flickering lights. Now, standing in the empty apartment, Alex realized what he meant. This place held stories. They clung to the walls, seeped through the floorboards, whispered from the windows. Stories and their characters, all waiting for someone to listen. When the door to 8 be opened, Alex noticed the woman again. She was holding a kerosene lamp. Its flame danced in her hollow eyes, casting dancing shadows on the walls behind her. The apartment was filled with shelves upon shelves of books bound in leather and steel. The musty smell of old paper hung heavy in the air. Alex coughed and the woman turned, a flicker of surprise on her face before she smiled, her teeth unnaturally white. Looking for a story? She asked, her voice like the rustle of dead leaves. Before Alex could respond, a man stepped out from behind a bookshelf. He was tall and thin, his face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. "She doesn't have time for visitors," he rasped, stepping in front of the woman. "Not tonight." He gestured for Alex to leave, but the woman shook her head. "Let him stay. I think he's here for a tale, don't you, Nicholas Cage?" Cage, the man who had welcomed Alex to the building on the first night. The one who had warned them about reading past midnight. He inclined his head towards the woman. "Do you really think he can handle it? The stories, they burn bright. Most turn away before the flames reach their eyes." "I think he can handle it," the woman repeated, meeting the man's gaze. Then she turned back to Alex. "What story would you like to hear? They say every story has a monster, but some have heroes too. Those who fight the darkness, who protect the innocent, who try to make things right. Maybe those are the stories worth telling. Because in the end, the heroes always win, don't they?" Alex woke up screaming. Their sheets were soaked with sweat. The room was empty. The window was open, letting in the sounds of the city, traffic, sirens, music. Just the comforting sounds of a city that never sleeps. And in the corner of the room, on the floor, lay a single feather, black as ink, a reminder of the story that had unfolded in the night. For sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we make up in our minds. Sometimes the only way to defeat them is to wake up from the nightmare. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss any new stories. Until then, happy reading. Alex burst out the front door, gasping for air. The scraping sound echoed from inside their apartment, and it was getting louder. Their neighbors weren't just odd. They were part of something bigger, something that wanted Alex to join them. Hidden inside the walls of their apartment building, behind the peeling paint and plaster, lay a secret history. And now it was reaching out, clawing at the surface to be free. It all started with a storm. Rain lashed against the windows. Wind screamed down the chimney. But the worst sound was the scratching in the walls. It was as if something were clawing from the inside of the plaster to get out. Sleep was impossible. So Alex got out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and pressed a hand against the wall. It felt soft, softer than paint and drywall should feel. Almost damp, almost alive. Trembling, Alex dug at a corner where the paint had bubbled. A piece peeled away like skin. Behind it was a cavity, and stuffed deep inside was a journal. Its leather cover was cracked, the edges frayed, and the pages yellowed with age. But the strangest part, the book was warm. Alex pulled it out, blew off the dust, and opened it cautiously. The first page was filled with messy handwriting. The story was about a man trapped in his own apartment. He hears voices in the walls, growing louder every day. One night, the scratching starts. First gentle taps, then frantic scrabbling. But the story stops abruptly, ending mid-sentence, as though the author had vanished before finishing. The next story was worse. It was about a child living in an apartment building with silent hallways. Every afternoon, he played with a toy ball and bounced it down the stairs. But the story ended before the ending made sense. Alex's stomach twisted. The description matched the boy by the stairwell exactly. But how could the story end before the story ended? It didn't make sense. Page after page, the stories grew darker, crueler, but none of them had conclusions. They were beginnings and middles without ends, fragments that felt unfinished, like the stories were waiting to be continued. And then the scratching started again. It was right behind the wall, coming from the other side. Alex slammed the book shut, shoved it under the bed, and hid between the curtains, watching the door. A sudden knock rattled the door. Alex jumped. Whoever was out there knew they were home. "Who's there?" Alex called, voice shaking. "We know your stories now," a voice hissed through the crack of the door. "And we want to hear more." Alex stared through the peephole. No one was there. Alex ran to the bathroom, locking themselves inside. The scratching came again, relentless, insistent. Then a new sound, the distinct scrape of a chair being dragged across hardwood floor. Slow, deliberate steps. Someone was coming closer. When the scratching stopped outside the bathroom door, Alex pressed their ear to the wood, listening for any sound that might come through. But there was only silence. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe they were just tired. Or maybe whatever was out there was waiting until morning to strike. In the morning, the journal was gone. The story had ended. Or maybe it had just begun. Because now it was Alex's turn to continue. As soon as the sun rose, Alex went to the bathroom and wrote furiously, recounting everything they experienced so far. The scratching, the stories, the feeling that someone or something was watching them. By the time they finished, the scratches had started again. Alex risked a glance out the peephole. The hallway was empty, but when they opened the door, another story had been added to the journal, appearing overnight. It was about a newcomer to the building who finds a journal hidden in the walls. The last line read, and once they started reading, the story began to read them. Alex knew then that the journal wasn't just recording horrors, it was summoning them. Whatever was trapped inside the walls fed on fear, using the journal to grow stronger. And now it was reaching out, trying to drag Alex into its world, desperate to finish its story. Alex slammed the door, realizing the fight had just begun. The scratching would not stop until they stopped the stories, until they gave the monster in the walls exactly what it wanted, devoured by the darkness. Welcome to my channel. It began small, shadows that didn't match the movements of their owners. Alex caught a glimpse one night. His own shadow lagged a second behind, its head turning toward the journal when Alex's didn't. Then came the whispers. At first, faint murmurs from the walls, then louder, clearer. Voices reciting lines Alex recognized from the unfinished stories. When he checked the book, entire paragraphs had vanished, as if they had been spoken out loud and then erased. But the worst was the boy. One evening, as Alex returned from work, the child with the silent wooden ball was waiting at the end of the hall. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood several figures, faces blurred, bodies stiff. Their mouths moved in unison, chanting words Alex had read just the night before. The ball rolled toward Alex, slow, deliberate. When it stopped at his feet, it wasn't wood anymore. It was wet, soft, pulsing, like a heart torn from something still living. Alex dropped it and ran into the apartment, slamming the door. The journal lay open on the floor. A fresh sentence appeared, written in dripping black ink. You can outrun a story you've already read. That night, the neighbors' doors creaked open one by one. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. The smell of smoke filled the air-burnt paper, scorched ink. Alex pressed against the wall, holding his breath. Through the peephole, he saw them. Neighbors, faces hollow, eyes dark as empty sockets, moving together like marionettes. They stopped at his door, knocked once. Then a voice whispered, "It's your turn to finish the story." Alex knew then every unfinished tale in the journal was waiting for someone to complete it. And the moment he picked up a pen, it wouldn't just be ink on paper. It would be blood on walls. The journal didn't want a reader. It wanted an author. In Nightbooks, stories aren't just entertainment, they're survival. Keep telling them, and you live another night. Stop, and the darkness swallows you whole. Alex realized the apartment worked the same way. The journal wasn't just a book, it was the building's beating heart. The warning signs were all there. The missing apartment number, the neighbors whispering in unison, the stains on the walls that twisted into sentences. Each tenant had been chosen, lured inside, and trapped in the endless cycle of storytelling. Those who refused became part of the structure faces, etched into the walls. Voices trapped in the whispers. Bodies hollowed out until only their shadows remained. Alex slammed the door, trapping the scratching sounds on the other side. He was safe, for now. But the journal sat on the table, its pages rustling like dry leaves. Alex knew he couldn't outrun what he was becoming, not while the ink-stained fingers twitched on his own skin, not while his reflection in the window seemed a little less himself. The apartment was a tomb, and he was its newest resident. His story was already written on the walls, and he could almost hear the tenants from before, their voices weaving through the cracks, chanting, "Another night, another story. Keep writing, don't be sorry." Each day, new stories bloomed on the walls, and each night they drew Alex deeper into the building's heart. He tried the stairwell, bounding down step after step, desperate to escape the echoing voices. But he always ended up back on his floor, staring at the same scratched-out door. The elevator was worse. Its mirrored walls showed the growing darkness under his eyes, the tightening grip of the journal's curse. Down below, a woman screamed as she read her rewritten ending. But as the days bled into nights, Alex found a strange comfort in the routine. The scratch of pen on paper became a rhythm, a way to stave off the encroaching madness. He wrote about a girl who danced with shadows, a boy who befriended monsters under the bed, a man who bargained with the darkness itself to grant him one more night. His stories to fill the walls with hope, to rewrite endings, to keep the darkness at bay. And as he wrote, something shifted in the building. The whispers faded into murmurs. The shadows stretched but did not touch. The very structure of the apartment seemed to hold its breath. For every story Alex finished, the building sighed with relief. Maybe, just maybe, they were buying time, hoping the sun would shine through the windows again, hoping to rewrite their fate, to etch a new ending into the walls. Maybe they could outrun the darkness if they wrote fast enough. I have a confession to make. I'm not actually Alex. Not anymore. This entire story has been told from his perspective, but it's my voice you've been hearing. See, I live in the building. Well, technically, the building lives in me. Ever since I read those books, the apartment became my home, and this story, my curse. It's not a place you can visit. Oh, sure. Plenty of tenants come and go. I've seen them pull all. I get a brief glimpse, their faces pale and drawn, eyes wide with fear. Then they leave as quickly as they came, fleeing the moment the clock tower chimes midnight. Those are the lucky ones, because I still live here. I haven't been able to escape, and here's why. You see, I didn't destroy the journal after I finished reading it. No, I couldn't. It was bound to the building. As soon as I closed the cover, I heard a knock, slow and deliberate. At first, I thought it was the pipes. You know how it is in older buildings. But then another sound joined it, a scrape like fingernails on wood. Then another and another, until a dozen distinct sounds filled the room. Tap, 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 scrape, 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 knock, knock, knock. I felt something cold and hard pressing against my chest, something ancient and malevolent. And I knew the journal wasn't just a book, it was a key. Somehow, in my hands, I had awakened the building and its hunger. That night, the whispers started. I could feel them slithering under my skin, scratching at my sanity. I tried to ignore them, pretend they weren't there. But when you're in the building, there's no escaping the stories. They seep into your bones and chill you to the core. I got up, needing to distract myself, to break the silence. That's when I saw the book lying open on the floor, its pages fluttering in the draft. I hadn't meant to read it again, but the words, the words seemed to call to me. I remember thinking, if I change the ending, maybe the building will sleep again. So I picked up a pen. Now, you've heard the rest of the story. How the ink bled onto the pages, how the words formed a new tale. Let me tell you, that was just the beginning. After that first sentence, more followed, twisting and turning, reaching out like grasping claws. Then the walls themselves rumbled, as though the building were sighing. I could feel it breathing, living, growing stronger with each word I wrote. By the time I finished, the whole apartment shook. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair, watching in horror as the words on the page lifted up, floating above the ink, rising slowly, inexorably towards the ceiling. They swirled and coalesced, becoming the very stuff of nightmares, tendrils of shadow that reached for me, coiling around my legs, dragging me down. And now I get to watch them writhe and twist in the rafters, always there, always watching, knowing. Sometimes they form faces, contorted in pain or rage, and I wonder if they're mine. If this is what I'll look like when the story is done. And I know you want to hear the ending. What happened when the apartment claimed me completely? Well, there isn't one. There can't be, because now it's up to you. You heard the scraping, didn't you? The moment I stopped speaking, didn't you? Hear the whispers starting up again, patient and insistent, there for you. Now, the building doesn't care about my story anymore. I'm just here to keep it company. I'm its resident caretaker, its archivist. I catalog the horrors, collect the memories, preserve the insanity. Because once you hear the story, it becomes your burden to carry. Oh sure, you can walk away. You can turn off the lights and pretend it wasn't you who opened the book. You can ignore the scratching on the walls and the creaking floorboards. But that doesn't make it go away. The apartment is a parasite. It feeds on attention. And now that you've listened, it's found a host. It will grow inside you, wrapping its cold, dark tendrils around your heart, squeezing tight. Bye, And the only way to stop it is to keep telling the story. Keep reading the book, watch the film, listen to the podcast. As long as someone keeps spreading the tale, the building will live. And now that I've set it free, I know it will find you. Just wait until the sun goes down and the shadows stretch long and hungry. And when you hear the first knock, don't answer. Whatever you do, don't open the door, because once you do, the story begins.